if you read the opinion, and I did, and you read the statute, it says here, bigger than Dallas. You can only get your money from the Federal Reserve out of earnings. Now, the Federal Reserve has not had any earnings since September of 2022. Isn't that correct?
No, that's not correct.
That's
From
correct.
a net income
All
perspective,
you have to do is
you're
go,
right,
is go.
but they've
go,
generated
is
lots
go
of
ask
fees
OMB.
and income. And
Every penny you've gotten under this congressional
I don't think
statute,
Congress wanted
every
the
penny
CFPB to be
that you
suddenly
have gotten, if I could
defunded.
finish my thought.
Sure.
I know you don't like to hear this, but the law is the law. You've been operating illegally.
No, that's not true, sir.
Yes, you have. There have been no earnings. Doesn't this put in jeopardy every one of your rules?
We've heard this
and
theory
every
before,
one
and I'm
of,
happy to
and
discuss
every,
it.
well, you're going to hear it again because it's the law. How can you possibly argue that the Federal Reserve has had earnings? They're losing money.
I'm happy to discuss this with you, but we have looked at this theory before.
I know you have, but
Yeah.
I'm over. I'm sorry. I always enjoy your testimony. When I look for a common thread running throughout your testimony, and I look at your agency's behavior, one of the common threads I see is that, and I'm not going to ask you to comment on this, is that in your judgment, some companies in America are making too much money. Now, when you analyze their financial statements, do you not?
Sure.
Do you distinguish between revenue and earnings when you analyze a financial statement?
Well, sure. We look at all things, and I would say that we
What's
don't
the
think of
difference
too much
between
money.
revenue and earnings?
Well, these are all used colloquially. Sometimes those are similar. In GAAP accounting, which is what most U.S. companies use.
Don't
they
tell
use
me
net-
about GAAP. Just tell me your understanding of the difference between revenue and earnings.
Well, I can share with you revenue and net income. So those are the two factors that when you say are on financial statements.
Earnings is another word for net income.
Well, earnings can be used for many different things, but in generally accepted accounting principles, net income is what all of our banks are really using.
Okay. Well, revenue is before expenses, and earnings, net income, is after expenses. Is that
No, I think like when people go to work, they say my earnings were this. I mean, that's their salary. So I think we tend to look
No,
at
I'm not
accounting
talking.
definitions.
They may say that, but when you analyze a financial statement, you look at expenses, don't you? You don't just equate revenue with earnings, do you?
Oh, totally. And I think your
Okay,
suggestion that we think companies are too profitable, we think about competition.
I understand.
What are the options people have
Here's
in order
what
to?
Here's what is confusing me. We all know, unless you were playing Frisbee in the quad during Econ 101 or Accounting 101, there's a difference between revenue and earnings. I want to ask about the way you're funded. I looked at Congress's statute. I'm looking for it here. It says, here's how you're funded. And you just won your lawsuit in the Supreme Court. Each year, beginning on the designated transfer date, in each quarter thereafter, the Board of Governors of the Federal Reserve, where you get your money, shall transfer to your agency from the combined earnings of the Federal Reserve System the amount determined by the director to be reasonably necessary to carry out the authorities of the Bureau. It says the combined earnings, not the revenue. Now, for the longest time, the Federal Reserve was earning money, but that stopped in September of 2022? Now, they are losing money. They don't have any earnings. They're no longer transferring earnings to the general fund. And the Supreme Court based its decision on saying that this funding scheme is constitutional under the Appropriations Clause by saying that these earnings would go to the general fund from the Federal Reserve, so getting them directly from the general fund is no big deal. How are you entitled to any money right now? The Federal Reserve doesn't have any earnings.
Well, we've heard of this theory. I think it's one of the latest
It's not a
ones that's
theory.
being
It's a
pushed.
congressional
Well,
statute.
I think there's you raise the difference between revenue and net income. There are other places throughout our laws. I can tell you we've looked at this issue. We do believe wholeheartedly everyone is complying with the statute.
I know you believe that, but if you look at what, if you read,
I'm aware with what you said,
if you
revenue
read,
and net
if you read
income.
if I could just finish my question.
Sure.
If you read the opinion, and I did, and you read the statute, it says here, bigger than Dallas, you can only get your money from the Federal Reserve out of earnings. Now, the Federal Reserve has not had any earnings since September of 2022. Isn't that correct?
No, that's not correct.
Sure, it's
From
correct.
a net income
All you
perspective,
have to do is
you're
go-
right.
is go-
But they've
go-
generated
is
lots
go
of
ask
fees
OMB.
and income. And I appreciate what you're saying. I'm happy to discuss this with you, but I think we've looked at this.
My point is, every penny you've gotten under this congressional
I don't think
statute,
Congress wanted
every
the
penny
CFPB to be
that you
suddenly
have gotten, if I could
defunded.
finish my thought.
Sure.
I know you don't like to hear this, but the law is the law. You've been operating illegally.
No, that's not true, sir.
Yes, you have. There have been no earnings. Doesn't this put in jeopardy every one of your rules?
We've heard this
and
theory
every
before,
one
and I'm
of
happy to
and
discuss it.
well, you're going to hear it again because it's the law. We didn't say revenue in the statute. We said earnings. How can you possibly argue that the Federal Reserve has had earnings? They're losing money.
I'm happy to discuss this with you, but we have looked at this theory before.
I know you have, but
Yeah.
I'm over. I'm sorry. Tell me why you're mad at Chase Bank.
You're not that sorry, Senator Kennedy, but go ahead.
You're mad at PayPal and Chase Bank. Can you tell me real quickly before Sharon cuts me off why you're mad
I
now
think
at PayPal and Chase
the
Bank?
concern is that we have seen an incident at PayPal where there was an attempt to censor people based on their speech. We've also seen that those companies are now going to be offering reportedly advertising based on your individual transaction data. I feel some of this is something we all need to figure out
Are
together.
you going to punish every company that has censored people's speech?
No, I do think
I applaud that part.
I think
But do
censorship
you have
is
to
a big
approve?
problem.
Senator Kennedy,
Do you have to
time's
approve the
expired.
speech
Senator-
first?
No, I
Time's
think we should.
expired.
I think we're on the same page.
I'm over. I'm sorry. Thanks for your indulgence, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Maxwell, you're a farmer, is that right?
Yes, Senator.
Excuse me. You used to be a farmer, or you still are?
Yes, Senator, I grew up on a farm. I'm fourth-generation Missouri farmer. My brother does most of the farming. I do this activity more. I do have degrees in ag economics and a law degree, but I still actively farm. I've got over 100 ewes on the farm. We have hogs production. We're kind of the diversified, traditional family farm type operation, lease out some of the land to the neighbor boy.
Yeah. Well, America was born on a farm, so thank you for that.
And thank you, Senator.
Dr. Owens, you talked about in order to commit a crime, you have to have means, motive, and opportunity. Is that right?
Yes, sir.
And you have suggested that it's not an optimal situation to have, well, strike that. Let me just get after it here. What crime are you accusing the four major food companies of?
Price gouging, sir.
Okay. You think they're price fixing?
In some cases, absolutely.
Okay. Name the four companies that you are accusing of price fixing.
In the grocery sector or more broadly?
The four you've been talking about.
I mean, so I think...
Name me every company that you think is price fixing in violation of the antitrust laws.
Yeah, I mean, so the most recent example that I think is worth considering is Agristat.
Yes,
the
ma'am,
big-
but if you don't mind, we'll come back and do the examples. Name me the companies that you're accusing of price fixing?
Well, the first one is AgriStats, which the Department of Justice has sued for price fixing.
Who else?
You know, in the grocery sector, we've got Walmart, we've got Kroger.
Walmart is price fixing.
No, I haven't accused them of price fixing. What I've said is that they're able to expand
All
their
right, let me
markup.
start over here. I want you price fixing is a serious crime, Doc. You can go to jail for that. And I want to be sure I understand your testimony. Who are you accusing of price fixing?
Yeah, look, what my testimony clearly states
No,
is that
tell me which companies you're accusing of price fixing. You said some were price fixing, and I want to know which ones.
yeah, I mean, look,
I may report them myself.
the company that's absolutely under investigation by the DOJ
Which
is
ones are
AgriStats.
price fixing?
I think the Federal Trade Commission and the Department of Justice should take a close look at the 4 major grocers. They should take a close look at the 4 major meat packers.
If
There
you
are
just
currently
answer my question,
there's
which
pending
companies-
litigation.
Which companies are price fixing?
Tyson is a great example. Tyson, the large meat packer.
Okay, who else?
The big
Who else?
4 meat packers are all
Who else? That's
currently
one.
under.
Who else?
Like I said, I think looking at the 4 major grocers makes sense in
Which
this setting.
which four are price fixing?
Walmart, Albertsons,
Walmart's price
Kroger.
fixing. What? Wait, let me-
I didn't say they were. I said taking a
You
look.
just said they were. You can't come here and say and imply they're price fixing and then say they're price fixing. That's a serious allegation. You can be sued for defamation.
I said we should take a close look
Now,
at the
let me
companies
go
who
back.
are-
I want to be sure I understand your testimony. Are you telling me right here today that you're accusing Walmart of price fixing?
I'm not personally accusing Walmart of price fixing. I am suggesting
Who are
that
you accusing of price fixing? That's a serious charge.
neither my written testimony nor my oral testimony makes explicit legal claims.
So you're not accusing anybody of price fixing.
No, I have pointed out that the Department of Justice is currently looking
Who
at
are
price
you
fixing
accusing
by
of price
AgriStats.
fixing? Why won't you answer my question? Who are you accusing of price fixing?
I'm pretty sure I have answered your question.
No, you
Senator.
haven't. Just tell me the names of the companies, one by one. What's the first company that you're accusing of price fixing?
I've mentioned AgriStats is currently
Agra,
investigating-
what?
AgriStats.
All right, who's number two?
I said Tyson's is currently under
Tyson's
investigation for
is
price,
price
fixing.
fixing.
Yeah.
Who's number three?
I've also said that I think the Department of Justice and the FTC should take a close look at
Who's
the
number three?
major grocery
Who's number
retailers.
three? Is Walmart price fixing?
I think that they should take a look at the
Is
extent to
Walmart
which-
price fixing?
They should take a look at it.
Is Walmart price fixing?
I can't currently answer that question. I said that the
You
Department
won't
of
answer
Justice,
that question.
No, I
How
said
about
that
Albertsons? Is Albertsons price fixing?
the Department of Justice and the Federal Trade Commission
Is Albertsons price fixing?
should take a close look at that.
Is Albertsons price fixing?
Again, I think the Department of Justice should take a close look.
You don't want to say.
No,
Now,
I mean, look, I'm not at the FTC. I'm not at the DOJ.
yes,
It's not-
ma'am, but you've
it's my
accused
job
these
to
companies of breaking the law, and I think that you ought to have the courage to say in front of God and country what you believe. Now, you either do or you don't.
Look, I believe that when companies get larger and larger,
I understand
and
what
larger,
you believe,
it
but I
becomes
understand
easier and
you're waffling.
easier.
You're
and
waffling
easier to
like a
coordinate.
bank catfish, okay?
It's easy to coordinate price hikes
Dr.
when you're
Antoni,
large and there are
Dr.
fewer
Antoni,
companies.
I think it's been well established that if we discovered life on Mars tomorrow, Joe Biden would send it money. To what extent has his deficit spending contributed to inflation? And do you know of any of these companies? Would you care to accuse someone of a crime here today? And if anybody else would, just let me know. If somebody is price fixing, I want to know. I'll report them myself. And I'm going to want to see your evidence. Otherwise, you subject yourself to defamation. But let me go back to my original question. What was it, Mars? Was it Mars or Jupiter? I forgot. Is the amount of money that President Biden has insisted on spending contributed to inflation? Duh. What's your answer to that?
Well, Senator, regarding the price fixing, I have no evidence because there is no evidence of that, so I can't provide that to you. But to answer the hypothetical on Mars, absolutely that would add to inflation. And yes, the deficit spending under this president, but really under any president. It doesn't matter that it's Joe Biden in particular in the White House doing it. If any person did what he did, it would have the exact same effect, which is this massive run-up in prices, because again, it's not that things are more valuable, it's that the dollar's worth less. So it takes more dollars to buy exactly what you used to. And if you look at, again, the Biden administration's own data, these aren't my figures, these are figures from the Biden administration. They show that prices paid by businesses and prices paid by consumers have gone up almost exactly the same, about 19% during his tenure. And so this idea that somehow the prices that consumers, that that all of the people that you represent are paying are somehow the cause of anything other than costs simply being passed on to them, the data simply don't support that.
Okay. How about you, Doc?
Excuse me. No evidence. No, I'm not accusing anyone of price fixing.
Are you a lawyer by chance?
I'm sorry?
Are you a lawyer by chance?
Oh, no, I'm not. Just an economist.
Okay. What happens if you accuse somebody of price fixing and they didn't do it?
I probably don't want to be that person.
You got good insurance?
Yeah. No, I'm not. Not doing that.
Okay. Go ahead.
As far as the fiscal stimulus stuff, that's a standard economic model. And you can go back and look, multiple people, Olivier Blanchard is one, some of the upper bound estimates on how big the shortfall in demand was after COVID and the shutdowns. So like one of the largest upper bound estimates that I've seen is about $680 billion, just the COVID package of $1.9 trillion. That's already almost 3 times the size of that. So that's